Welcome to Tejal Khandelwal Study Center. Today's topic is justice. So let's revise justice together. What does justice mean in the most simplistic and general sense? It implies proper balance. When we talk about legal aspect of justice or law-based justice, it implies a fair trial to establish guilt and innocence and a just punishment to the one who is convicted of an offense. On the other hand, when we talk about justice in the realm of political theory, we all visualize it as members of a social group. So it implies distributive aspect of justice and distribution of what? Of burdens and of benefits, of rewards in this sense. It is said that justice is one of the most important concerns and value of political theory. Justice, Melian Stable argues, is a term whose content has altered more than of any other concept in the realm of political theory. Let's see how the issue of distributive justice in the realm of political theory has been analyzed. When we talk about the issue of distributive justice, we know that politics is about who gets what, when, and how. It implies that there are certain criterias to give for distribution. One is the need-based criteria, which means from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. It is in the socialist or Marxist perspective that needs-based justice has been spoken of. When we talk about rights-based justice, there are important liberal views with respect to rights-based justice because individual is the central concern of the liberal philosophy. So obviously, if it is individual, freedom and rights will follow. The classical liberals say that the basis of rights should be what? Negative freedom. The welfare egalitarians, they talk about positive freedom and role of state in ensuring welfare of individuals in this sense. When we talk about libertarians, they give an entitlement based theory of justice, which means it is non-egalitarian in nature. It talks about minimal role of the state. When we talk about deserts-based justice, it implies the innate worth or intrinsic worth of an individual, which should be the basis of how much he or she deserves. So Edmund Burke and Herbert Spencer says each one should get how much they deserve according to their own nature. So there are different criterias for distribution in different schools of thought. Now, let's talk about two important perspectives of justice. One is how justice is about procedural justice and about substantive justice, which means when we talk about procedural justice, we are talking of the fairness of the procedures and policies to arrive, fairness of procedures and processes to arrive at policies and decisions. It implies that we are concerned about rights-based justice and it is based on formal equality. Rawls' concept, he says, or Rawls' theory is purely procedural in nature, which means he says if the principles of justice to be arrived, we set the right procedures, then obviously the outcomes also will be just. On the other hand, we distinguish procedural justice from substantive justice. Substantive justice talks not about fairness of procedures and process. It talks about the fairness of outcomes, right? With respect to the laws, policies, and decisions that are being spoken. So it can be that needs-based justice is more substantive aspect of justice. And this is based on substantive equality and not formal or proportional equality, as has been spoken of in the procedure-based justice. Now let's analyze justice in the Greek times. If we talk about the concept of justice, Plato arrives at the theory of justice through the method of dialectics. His key work is Republic, whose concern is justice. So, what does Plato imply by justice? According to Plato, it is righteousness or just. It is moral because it is based on the inner nature of the human spirit. So Plato is not giving a conventional theory of justice. He is not concerned about legality aspect or rights aspect of justice. According to him, justice is functional specialization, which means every individual in the society should act according to their inner spirit or inner nature or qualities, right? So how he divides various classes with various kinds of souls. If they perform their duties and work in society in accordance with these traits, then it is automatically going to lead to harmony and there will not be any kind of conflict in the society. So he says this will lead, so justice is like that bond which which establishes harmony between the individuals, between the classes and the state. Thus, for Plato, justice falls in the realm of social ethics. Now, so we say that he says it leads to common good and a bond between individual classes and state and holds them together and establishes harmony. He says justice is natural and not artificial, which means it is not product of any law or convention. It is not byproduct of that. It is based on the inner spirit, right, of human nature. Thus, it is natural and not artificial. And he says it is a public and private virtue because in the good of individual is very much linked to the whole society, the good of the whole society in the common good. So Plato's idea is what one ought to do. It is about duty. It is about having that natural order of society. On the other hand, when we talk about the concept of justice in the view of Aristotle, Aristotle says justice is in order to have regulation of human affairs. But justice is not only about presence of virtues, it is also about virtues in action, which means truth is a virtue, but truthful conduct is a virtue in action. It is not necessary that despite knowing the truth, everybody will be honest in their conduct. So Aristotle establishes justice even as a moral virtue, which is in obviously action, as well as the legal aspect of justice. He also talks about the distributive aspect of justice, which is the concern of the legislature on how it distributes awards, allocation of wealth in the society. So Aristotle talks about general justice, which implies largely complete goodness, thus it is moral virtue, and also particular justice, which is part of this general justice, which concerns observance of the rules. So Plato considers it as part of human spirit, based on human nature. On the other hand, Aristotle says no, it is about how we regulate human affairs and thus there has to be observance of rules. So he bases this on the aspect of proportionate equality. So treating equals equally and unequals unequally. Now, he talks of three aspects of justice. One is the distributive, second is the retributive or corrective, and the commutative justice. The distributive aspect of justice is concern of the legislator about what? Distribution of honors and wealth in society. When we talk about retributive or corrective or remedial justice, it is about the damages that are done in the society. And when we talk about commutative justice, it is about how there has to be regulation of various voluntary transactions that people enter into, right? Agreements that people enter into. There has to be adherence of these voluntary transactions. And if there is any conflict arising out of these transactions, then this belongs to the sphere of the judiciary. Thus, for him, essence of the state is justice, and every state will degenerate if there is no justice, according to whom? According to Aristotle. So yes, justice is the end of every state, it is the essence of every state, and states should strive to establish justice in the society. Okay, so this is about the Greek concept of justice. Now let's move to justice in modern times and the key contribution of John Rawls in this regard. Now, before moving to John Rawls, we can see that there have been many schools and many perspectives that evolved from the ancient concept until the modern times, which means liberal philosophy will have its own version, the Marxist socialist will have its own version, right? The communitarians will also again emerge after Rawls. However, so there have been various schools of thought which have given their own basis of justice. Okay, so within the liberal tradition, within the socialist Marxist tradition, there have been competing perspectives that have emerged. However, why Rawls is so important in the realm of justice? Because Rawls' work is not only about a theory of justice. Rawls is very important because we see that political science had witnessed a decline as a discipline because of behavioralism and too much importance on science and facts, which means values had been underemphasized. So, to revive and to talk about the importance of values, how Rawls talks about the importance of normative political philosophy. So, Rawls' work is not only a contribution to the theory of justice, but the revival of political philosophy, normative political philosophy, and he says how it is important that we also talk about what ought to be and not only what is, even though it guides us about the practical aspects of life. So he gives an important function to political philosophy in this regard. Now, so when we talk about Rawls, we know that he is what? He is a social liberal. He is egalitarian in this sense. We know social liberals have emerged. Okay, so we had welfare state that came into picture. In contrast to the welfare state, what came into picture? The neoliberalism as a school of thought emerged. And social liberals talks about what? They talk about importance of building capacities of individuals. So yes, Rawls belongs to what? He belongs to the school of social liberals. Now, he establishes a universal theory, which means he says, I will establish that kind of principles of justice which can be applied everywhere, in every context, in every culture, in every situation. So his aim is in order to have what? A universal theory of justice. How he thinks that his idea of justice will be universally applicable? Because he says, my concern or my way of establishing the principles of justice are through rationality. So he says that my theory is purely procedural in nature. And what do we mean by being purely procedural? Which means if the procedure to arrive at the justice, the way of establishment of the principles are guided by some logical thinking, or there is rationality in how we arrive at the idea of justice and its principles, then it is very much possible that the outcomes will also be just. Because by arriving at this principle, everybody in the society will follow these principles, and then there will not be debate about how the principles have been arrived. So if everyone is in consent about arrival of the principles together, then obviously everybody will adhere to these principles also. So his theory is purely procedural in that sense. Now, so he has revived the Anglo-American what? Political philosophy. So what is his key statement? So he talks about justice as fairness. Now fairness means what here? So when he says justice as fairness, which means he is not saying that his concept of justice will only benefit the least advantaged. It will take care of the least advantaged society or sections of the society, and it will also be fair to the wealthy sections of the society, which means he will try to establish and reconcile the debate between liberty and equality that has been going on for years. So he will bring in a mid path which will ensure fairness even to the wealthy, even to the worst off in the society. Okay. So that's why his justice is justice as fairness. Now, so we can see that he talks about a just society. And what are the pillars of a just society? So Rawls says in every just society, there should be basic liberties, there should be equality of opportunity, and the inequalities should be in such a way that they are for the benefit of the least advantaged sections. Even if inequalities are arising, which means someone is more richer than the other, it is not for the benefit of what? Of these richer sections. These richer sections will voluntarily contribute for redistribution of the least, of the worst off in the society, okay, of the least advantaged sections. That's why it is fairness. Fine. Now, so Rawls' concept, it is revival of, say, we know that political theory was in the state of decline, and that's why his work is a key example of post-behavioral theory, because he emphasizes on what? Emphasizes on values, on moral aspect of justice, okay? And he gives an important role of political philosophy in society. So yes, he is compared in that sense to the great ancient thinkers, Greek thinkers, okay? Now, so yes, he resolved the tension even between liberty and equality. And we know that he emerges in a specific context. So Rawls has been a very strong, ardent champion of justice in the American society, where there have been lot of social movements with respect to the inequalities that were occurring. Okay, and he himself has witnessed a very difficult struggle in his life. He lost two of his brothers also in the due to deterioration in health. So all of this childhood bad health crisis has really impacted his thought, and we can say that even Rawls is a child of his times. Okay, now let's talk about the influences on Rawls. So first is Locke's social contract. So he also adopts the same method of social contract, which means how by consent everybody arrives at a common or common principles of justice. And he says, he gives that any law should be the one which should be made by people, which should be made by state, and it is not a law which should be given by some divine force. So religion should not be the basis of law, customs should not be the basis of law. So yes, the Locke's perspective of being Secular basis of law has also been adopted by whom? By Rawls. It should be man-made in character. Second is he is influenced by Kant. Why by Kant? Because he talks about individual as a moral person. And second important, that every individual has to be respected as an end in itself and not as a means for some other end. So what is the basis when we say individual has to be respected as an end in itself, which means individual's human dignity is the basis for respect. Okay. So we see that he says, like Kant says, okay, every individual has a conception of what is good life, what is valuable in their life. So every individual, according to Kant, is also what kind of person? Moral person. There is some good, right, that is there of how to lead a valuable life in every person, every human being. Fine. Now, so everybody want to live in cooperation with others. Now, there is mutually consistent terms are to respect and obviously have reciprocal benefits as the basis. Fine. So, the Kantian man is a moral person and he makes his individuals who are rational negotiators as moral person and not Hobbesian person. Okay. Now, what is Locke's individual? Locke's individual is guided by reason and interest. But Kantian man is more better than even Locke's man. Okay. He establishes morality as the basis of the individual, right? So this is what influenced him. Now, then justice should be based on human dignity. Okay. What is human dignity? Which means we respect every person is worthy, we have to honor and guided by esteem. Okay. So yes, human is not a means and possess a dignity. It is human being is an end in itself. Now, Rousseau, the search for common good, general will, the spirit of the general will is very important. Even if individuals have what? Actual wills, but overall they do what? They will submit in light of the common good, in light of the general will. So general will is qualitative in characteristics. So that's what so Rawls is very much inspired by the spirit of the general will, which rational negotiators will arrive at for the sake of common good, for the search for common good. Okay. So these are the influences on Rawls. Now, let's talk about the major works of Rawls. So the first work is the Theory of Justice, right? It is written in 1971 and in this he talks about justice as fairness. Political liberalism is a response to communitarian's critique of Rawls. It is written in 1991. So he accommodates many ideas of the communitarians and refines his concept of justice. That is the beauty of liberals, They accommodate all challenges and rework them, and that's why liberal theories have the highest resilience because toleration is key virtue. Okay. Now, so yes, the political liberalism written in 19 is a response to communitarians. On the other hand, Laws of Peoples written in 1998 is response to whom? Cosmopolitan scholars. Who are the cosmopolitan scholars? What is the meaning of Which means we all are individuals. We all in the world are not citizens. We are human beings. And that is what is need to be respected. So here there is a debate on whether we can have difference principle guiding the what? Law between nations, right? So it is about justice as fairness or difference principle. Can it be applied in the sphere of global justice or no? So here that debate will be there in Law of the Peoples. Is it understood? So this is about the works of Rawls. In every exam, okay, be it even for your ethics paper, but more important obviously for political science, there is no year where justice has not been asked. So don't even think that you will skip this concept, and every aspect has to be studied in nuanced detail, specific detail. Okay. Now, let's talk about what? The methodology of Rawls. So we can see some aspects of Rawls methodology. Firstly, Rawls methodology is deontological in nature, which means he's not focusing on the ends, he's not focusing on the consequences, he's focusing on the means. The means have to be ethical, it has to be guided in such a way. So when we talk of deontological theory, okay, so there are two kinds of theories, teleological and deontological. When we talk of teleological theory, they are always concerned of what will be the effect, what will be the consequences, what is the end, what is the result. Right? So they are end state theories. They are what? Consequentialism. है ना? So utilitarianism is what? Greatest happiness of greatest number. Fine. It is about majority. So it is more focused on consequences. And deontological says no, something has to be done because it is aspect of duty, it is aspect of obligation. So with respect to value that matters, the means that matters. So Rawlsian theory and methodology is deontological. Fine. Second, it is purely procedural, which means he is focusing on arriving at, he follows, the right procedures in order to arrive at the principles of justice. Now, so how do we distinguish is purely procedural methodology then the other kind of methodology? So one methodology is perfectly procedural, which means there is some existence of an idea, and if we have existence of the idea, then a desired procedure can be made. That is what? Perfectly procedural. What is imperfectly procedural? Matlab idea is clear. Okay, there is some criteria we know. But however, the procedure is not clear. तो it is imperfectly procedural. पूरा काम तो नहीं हुआ ना इसमें, imperfect है. Perfect में दोनों चीजें हैं. आइडिया भी बढ़िया है और डिजायर्ड प्रोसीजर भी आ जाएगा. यहाँ पे आइडिया इज क्लियर बट प्रोसीजर इज नॉट क्लियर. प्योरली प्रोसीजरल मतलब कोई प्री डिफाइंड आइडिया है ही नहीं कि जस्टिस होगा क्या. हम क्या फॉलो करेंगे? राइट प्रोसीजर करेंगे तो प्रोसीजर का आउटकम ऑब्वियसली क्या आएगा? आइडिया सही बन जाएगा. सो देयर इज नो प्री डिफाइंड आइडिया इन अ प्योरली प्रोसीजरल methodology. Okay, and it is only an attempt to devise perfect procedure. Procedure सही है तो उसका क्या है? उसका आंसर भी सही आएगा, उसका रिजल्ट भी सही आएगा, उसका आउटकम भी सही आएगा. Okay, that is why he says I am attempting to devise a perfect procedure and the outcomes will be just. Now, and obviously he takes the social contract of Locke, the imaginary idea, the thought experiment that he devises in the original position. So these, whenever question on Rawlsian methodology will come, you talk of deontological, you talk of purely procedural, and how he takes the social contract as a method to arrive. Now, let's talk about his criticism of utilitarianism. So, when we talk of criticism of utilitarianism, firstly, we need to know what is the basis on which concept of justice is arrived within utilitarianism. तो क्या principles हैं utilitarianism? We know it very clearly. Utilitarianism will focus on greatest happiness of greatest number. It will talk about pleasure and pain. It will talk about utility as the key idea. Okay? So it will always talk about aggregate sum of utility or happiness or welfare. Everything is equated. उनके लिए pleasure, happiness, welfare में फर्क ही नहीं है. उनकी एग्रीगेशन की बात है, मेजॉरिटी की बात है. तो यूटिलिटेरियन कंसेप्ट में जब ग्रेटेस्ट हैप्पीनेस ऑफ ग्रेटेस्ट नंबर आता है, who is being compromised? Individual is being compromised. Individual's dignity is not important. Majority, what they are saying is important. So even if it is one individual, it is problematic, like Mill says. So Mill says truth can emerge even from a single person. So we should allow freedom of speech. He contrasts, Bentham's idea. So similarly, Rawls also says that there is violability of individual's human dignity. So this is a completely what? Morally flawed theory. Because for Rawls, individual is an end in itself. And an individual's human dignity cannot be violated for any ground. Neither for majority, neither for pleasure, neither for happiness. So Rawls will correct utilitarianism and devise his theory, correcting these problems in liberal basis of justice. So UPSC asked one question: how has Rawls enriched the concept of justice in liberalism? Which means, what was justice existing in liberal perspective before Rawls came in picture? So you have to talk of classical liberal philosophy, right? So what were the classical liberals saying? One of the key tenet of classical liberal is obviously economic aspect. Second aspect is whom? Second aspect is utilitarianism. So utilitarians will also be criticized, and then Rawls will come. That's how Rawls will enrich. Fine? Now, so therefore it is a morally flawed theory, because minority will be like succumbed to slavery, है ना? According to whom? Rawls. So let's see what are the corrections he makes in this utilitarian theory in his own version. Firstly, for him, what is the moral principle which should be the basis of justice? तुम्हारा moral principle क्या है utilitarians का? It is about the greatest happiness of greatest number. Rawls will say flawed. Utility cannot be basis. Freedom and equality of every person has to be the basis of justice. Okay? So yes, it is freedom and equality of person, moral worth of individual. Then he cannot compensate for sufferings of distress by augmenting joys of prosperous. Right? That cannot be done. Then so he corrects this problem which is there actually in utilitarianism. So he says his theory will be a contrast to the consequentialist ethical theory, because it is teleological. We know consequentialism focuses on the consequence and the effect. अगर greatest happiness greatest number है, सब कुछ justified है उसके लिए, भले हम क्या है 5 लोगों को मार सकते हैं 50 को बचाने के लिए, है ना? But Rawls will say no. Then priority of individual liberties. All right. So he says yes, individual liberty is important, but it has to be along with what? Along with ensuring equality also. Then well-being of least advantage. Rawls will focus on this. Wheel of ignorance should be, he establishes, for fair and impartial decision-making processes and based on intuitive judgments. All right. So he corrects the principles and the issues in utilitarianism and checks them in his theory. Now let's see Rawls' theory of justice. Be very attentive. I will very objectively first expand his vision, so that once you get his vision clear, then all these aspects will become very easy. Okay? So understand it in the most broadest sense. Now, what is Rawls trying to establish? He wants to establish a fair society. Obviously, justice, he wants to arrive at a right procedure. But when we look at his broad perspective, imagine he is in America, how he is thinking, how he is looking at the circumstances in the society, how protest movements are rising, social movements are there, great inequalities are there. So what is his vision for society? So he wants to establish a fair society. What is this fair society based upon? There have to be some way. So he says it will be based on a social contract only, which means if individual and state they enter into a social contract, only then we can have a fair society. Okay, so for him the social contract between state and individual will form the fair society. Once the social contract happens, what will come into picture? Jab state or individual, some machinery will come. So he says just social institutions will be established. Okay, right? What will these institutions do? These institutions will ensure equal treatment and benefit for least advantaged sections of society, specifically those who are facing disadvantages. It will ensure that. So what will be the outcome? Justice will be the first virtue of these social institutions. Only if justice is the first virtue of these social institutions, not something like greatest happiness of greatest number, not something like utility, then only we'll reach where? We'll reach to the fair society. So we have to look at Rawlsian theory in this broad light. Fair society, basis is social contract. Social contract leads to right institutions, and this institution should be guided by which principle? Principle of justice is fairness. Okay, now, so he says justice as fairness as a grand theory he wants to establish, universal theory. It is like an absolute idea. Why it is absolute idea? Which means why it will not be questioned? Because according to him, this idea of justice as fairness will appeal everybody. It is reasonable to all. Okay? Now, so he says every society to establish, if you want to establish a fair society needs some rules. है ना? तो social contract is also set of rules, arrangement. So he says we have to follow rules. And rules, who follows? What kind of people follow rules? Who follows rules? So rational human beings follow rules. When they follow rules, they choose certain principles, okay, for arriving at the idea of distribution in society. Okay, so these, like if we want to establish justice as fairness, everybody has to follow rules. It is about these rational human beings. They choose principles of what will be the idea of distributive justice. Now, what is the problem of justice according to him? So he says the problem of this distributive justice, as a concept is what? It is just distribution of primary goods. It is not about secondary goods. Secondary goods are goals of life of individual. Everyone has enough understanding of what they want in their life. Individual is enough rational कि उसको क्या choose करना है, what is his best interest. He should even have the freedom to do that. But in society, when individual comes, problem is problem of primary goods. तो primary goods कौन से हैं? Primary goods are social goods, natural goods. Okay, so he says these primary goods are how liberty should be done, how rights have to be ensured, how power has to be distributed, how income and wealth have to be done, how opportunities, and how self-respect. Okay, so he talks of the biggest problem of distributive justice is how to distribute primary goods. Now, secondary goods, he says individual is enough intelligent. That's where who will question? Communitarians will question. कि Rawls is saying goals of life इंसान को पता ही करना नहीं. अरे goals of life इंसान खुद choose कर ही नहीं सकता. Goals are given. We just live them. That's where Rawls will be criticized by communitarians. Okay, so problem is of primary goods only. तो अब ये problem है, तो इसका समाधान क्या है? So he says we go in the original position, which means we go in a state in a hypothetical construct, just like state of nature. Remember, state of nature was also hypothetical construct. So Rawlsian origin position is also like that state of nature. Just think like that, okay? And logical processes to arrive at the idea of justice. He will devise that. Fine? Now, so let's see what he talks of the original position. So original position is a thought experiment, right? It is an imaginary or hypothetical assembly of individuals, negotiators, human beings who are moral person and coming together to arrive at the principles of justice. Okay? Now, so he says the purpose of establishing this hypothetical construct is to arrive at rational principles of justice. All right? Why it is an imaginary situation? Because if I knew what is your situation, whether you are strong in something or what is your weakness, and I know what is my strength and weakness, I will negotiate with you in such a way that I will benefit the most. But if I don't know my problem, I don't know your problem, I don't know your goodness, then it becomes easy to negotiate, because for these principles, see, we have to arrive at some neutral principle which balance everything. Hai na? That's what justice is, proper balance that we try to achieve. So in order to have this proper balance, what has to be done? So Rawls says we have to forget our identities, which caste, which religion, all these things we'll forget. Okay? So he says forget oneself, but you are rational, you have reason, you are ready to do cooperation, and you will work in your own interest. So there is not some coming with great heart. No, you are moral, you are rational, you understand what is how economics works, how human being is, you understand these things, but you forget your identities. Identities are problematic. Okay? So he says one does not know religion, caste, race, nationality, neither talents and weakness. So they are behind a wheel of ignorance. Wheel of ignorance मतलब एक ऐसा पर्दा है इंसान के सामने जिसमें वो अपने बारे में नहीं जानता. ठीक है? Now, so types of person, moral, responsible person are there who are doing negotiation in this assembly. Okay? They are offering each other fair terms of cooperation and mutually disinterested. Mutually disinterested मतलब everybody is, I am coming for my interest, you are coming for your interest. I am not coming here for your interest. Okay? However, even if I am coming for my interest, I know that my interest will be fulfilled only when I cooperate. If I fight with you, my interest is not met. Okay? So they are yet understanding the importance of cooperation. Fine? Now, so decide what the criteria of distribution of primary goods. Right? So the whole concern is for us how these primary goods will be distributed. Then they will move towards the criteria. Let's see how. So he says in wheel of ignorance is needed. Obviously, I'll just expand on that idea because there is no space there. Wheel of ignorance is needed because everyone is independent of characteristics and position. Only then we will be able to establish justice. How this wheel of ignorance becomes a tool to ensure justice, how it will ensure justice, which means forgetting oneself, forgetting your identity. So it will be a tool developing impartial and unrelated principles. Adopt fair and equitable approach. Principles will be justifiable even to the least advantaged sections. And afraid to be poor. Everybody is afraid to be poor. For example, if justice ke principles aise ho gaye, that, and if I am on the other side, which means I'm not rich and I'm poor, then what will happen? So if you forget your identities, only then you will be having. So yes, it is, everybody is afraid to be poor. Therefore, construct social institutions that protect everyone largely. And rational negotiators choose the least dangerous path. क्या पता मैं ही गरीब निकल जाऊं ये सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के बाद. ठीक है? अब ये जो कहानी बनाई है ना रॉल्स ने, दिस इज वेरी प्रॉब्लमैटिक. Because what will communitarians say? कि तुमने ये रैशनल नेगोशिएटर्स को व्हील ऑफ इग्नोरेंस, कोई अपनी आइडेंटिटी भूल के काम करता है क्या? रियल पीपल नेगोशिएट इन रियल सिचुएशन. हाउ विल आई फॉरगेट आई एम इंडियन व्हेन आई एम नेगोशिएटिंग विद, फॉर एग्जांपल, अमेरिकन? और हाउ विल आई फॉरगेट माय रिलीजन? हाउ विल आई फॉरगेट माय कास्ट? I cannot forget anything. We are not imaginary people. We are all really sitting here to. But however, since he's intellectually and academically arriving at this theory, it makes relevance in that sense. Okay, and communitarians will also need something to criticize. Chalo. Now, so let's see what are the principles of justice according to Rawls. So first principle is equal basic liberties. What is this implying? What is this basic liberties? For political participation, for freedom of expression that he talks of, equality before law, freedom of speech, expression, conscience, thought, personal property also can allow to be owned, assembly, and freedom from arbitrary arrest and detention. So he says liberty is given for political participation. Liberty is given so that everybody is equal before law. Now, so it enables, what will this liberty do to people? This principle, what will be its impact? So he says that it is positive because it enables capacity to form conception of good. You cannot visualize a valuable life until you are given freedom. If you are given an equal treatment as a member of a social group or society or a state. ठीक है? And it will also, when we understand the conception of the good that society in which we are living, we will always strive to work in accordance with principles of the justice. है ना? We will try to be good human beings to each other. So, act according to principles of justice. However, what is the issue? It will lead to inequalities. Why? Because when freedom is given to everyone in equal measure, talent तो सबका एक नहीं है ना, capacity सबकी एक जैसी नहीं है, तो somebody will use that freedom in the highest mechanism. If I am given the freedom to write and my writing skills and communication skills are good, I will become a very well-known author. If somebody cannot communicate, even if he is given the freedom of speech and expression, that person will stay behind. So what to do in such a situation? So he says, even if when we give equal liberties, not necessary it will establish just society. है ना? Why? Because it will lead to inequality. Some will advantage more than others. Some will use their freedom in the most right way. Others will not be able to do the same. So in this context, he says it will lead to inequalities, right? Some are more advantaged than others. What will happen? So he says, this advantage is a matter of chance, which means that you are able to do. So it is a matter, for that you will have to compensate for those who are not able to do it. So inequalities are not natural, they are social, and therefore he says we need to manage these inequalities. It is not that we can deprive someone of liberties because it leads to inequalities. No. Right? So first principle he justifies that we have to manage these inequalities. It is not something which is what? Natural. It is social. Then he talks about the second principle linked with the third principle. See, when we talk about, he has given priority to liberty, and second principle is equality. With equality is always attached in Rawlsian term is difference principle. So effectively there are two principles, but because with equality of opportunity, difference principle is always there. So some say it is 3. But it is 2A and 2B. Actually, it has to be viewed that way. Okay? Now, so equality of opportunity, where? In educational sphere, in cultural sphere, in the economic sphere, in acquiring offices and positions. Okay? Now, so he says, equality of opportunity for acquisition of offices and positions we have to give. But there also needs to be along with it difference principle. Why? To maximize benefits to the least advantage. Because we know inequalities will arise because of liberty. Fine? So he says there is a concept of chain connection in his thought, which means in a chain, where will the chain break from? Protest क्यों होते हैं? It is weakest link from where chain will break. So we have to strengthen this link. So he says establish a strong chain connection by strengthening the weakest link, and that is the least advantaged section of society. Now, so just or fair inequalities should benefit whom? The worst of. So he is saying what? If somebody is earning more, if he is wealthy, it's okay. But what has to be done? This wealth has to be redistributed. It cannot be remaining merely in this, which means this redistribution is voluntarily created in the atmosphere of the state. Is this understood? So yes, when we talk of this, we can see that there is a role in sense of welfare benefits. Like a welfare state ensures affirmative action. If we talk of difference principle, okay, of Rawls, it appears like he is talking of a welfare state role. But there is no clarity on whether he wants to give the state a welfare role or he wants to have some principle in such a way that can reconcile with the capitalist model of democracy. Okay. So there is a debate on this also, whether the role of state he envisages is of what nature. Alright. Now, so just or fair inequality should benefit whom? The worst of. And he gives a lexical priority. What is the meaning of lexical priority? Which means never can equality come above equality, liberty. First liberty, when everything is ensured, only then in second line equality will be there. So socialists and Marxists will say, which is a bigger virtue? Equality is a bigger virtue, most fundamental human value. And Rawls is like a liberal only talking of liberty and justifying inequalities also. Okay, so obviously he is problematic for the Marxist and socialist. They will pick this as the argument. Now, so first let's analyze the criticism of Rawls. If we talk about the communitarian critique of Rawlsian philosophy, let's see what is the key emphasis that has been pointed towards by the communitarians. Communitarians emphasize the importance of community in shaping of the individual, in the understanding of the self, and if we talk about the importance of values that the community contribute in the making of this individual, obviously also determines how justice will be established. So how goals will be defined, how the choices that individuals make are not their own choices or completely guided by the free will of the individual. They are also choices that are given in a particular context within the society. Okay, so communitarianism is a recent development in the West, and it makes a criticism towards libertarians. Even though Rawls is not a libertarian in that sense, he's a social liberal, but even he emphasizes on importance of individual and liberty as a key notion rather than the importance of community, okay, and in shaping the values of the individual. Okay. So firstly, when we talk about community versus society, so what is community? See, society is a very large construct, okay, but when we talk of community, it is like a close-knit group. It can be a kinship group, it can be family, it can be neighborhood, it can be a friends group, it can also be the political community of which you are a part. Okay, so all of this implies your community, and all of this, your peers, right, your friends also shape what you like, what you don't like. So it is a closely embedded group which shapes how you think, not only about the larger society. So this is what the idea of community implies. Now, so communitarians say that community is a closely embedded group and every individual has a natural membership here. Okay, so individual is not atomistic or situated, individual is not atomistic, He is always a situated self. Situated self, which means located within a group. He cannot be atomistic or, completely atomistic and isolated self. All right. It is always a situated self. So this obviously shapes the perception of justice, which means if an individual is part of a community and that community is shaping ideas, so every community or group's perception of justice will also vary as per the values of the group. ठीक है? So that's how is the central argument. Now, second is right versus good. When we talk of liberals or Rawls, they emphasize on individual. If individual, which means freedom is important, liberty is important, which means rights are more important than what is being valued in the human life. So Rawls emphasize right is prior to good. Good means what is the idea or conception of a valuable human life. What is good, which means what is in my interest. What is right, which means what is my freedom, my choice. And when we say good, which means what is being valued. Okay. So for Rawls, it is right is prior to good. On the other hand, communitarians say no, it is not always about freedom. Right? So self is not prior to its ends. Rawls says self is prior to its ends. है ना? On the other hand, communitarians will say self is constituted by the end goal of life. Okay? So here they'll say communitarians good is prior to right. Alright? Common good is more important than the rights of the individuals. And Sandel and McIntyre emphasize on this. With respect to concept of self, individual is not abstract agent like who say, Rawls say. Okay? Individuals are moral agents. They are shaped by the values, the morals around them. So they are not free to decide their goals. Self is constituted by its ends. Self is not prior to its ends. Okay, goals are given, people only realize them. Which means when we talk of, Rawls says no secondary goods. For Rawls, that is not a very key question, goals of human life, because according to Rawls, every human being has the choice. Every human being knows what is in his best interest. But communitarians say no, goals are not given. I mean, goals are not something everybody chooses. Goals are given. Society values some things. And we try to become, for example, in certain communities, becoming a civil servant is valued. If we look at some cities and their culture also. So becoming a government servant is valued, but not necessarily in certain, it is not valued. So it will vary with that culture. All right. Now, what is Rawls' idea of justice? He claims universalism, which means whatever theory I will make will be grand theory. It will be absolute idea because it will be reasonable to all. So communitarians say, how can you do something like this? There is nothing universality. Even if you are talking of procedures, no, because every community has a different construct of how they will look at things. So their idea of what will be the just principles will also vary. Okay, so rationality for Rawls is universal conception of ethics because he calls them rational individual. He says rational procedures. Walzer says no, there cannot be single principle of justice, which means rationality cannot be the only principle of justice. Sometimes it is also about some historical injustice that has taken shape in society, some discrimination. This is also has to be considered. Okay. So Walzer says different goods ought to be distributed differently. Okay. For different spheres and by different agents according to different procedures. For example, health and education. दोनों के justice के principles अलग होंगे. How distribution has to happen in health is different than education. Education is different than, some other sector. Even in education, there will be elementary education is more priority than higher education. ठीक है, state will try to ensure more distributive aspect in elementary education. Invest more resources there. So, there cannot be one single universal principle like rationality. Communitarians say, like Rawls is saying, no, it is not like that. Neither individual is given, neither individual has choice to choose their goals of life. Goals are also given. What is valued by society and community, individual will work according to that. And individual is always situated self. He's not isolated and doing things how he or she wants. No, you are shaped by your society and community values. Now let's move towards Rawlsian response to the communitarian critique of justice. Communitarians point that Rawls' theory was too abstract and goes for universal concept of justice. And rather, in fact, Rawls should have propounded a more practical approach to justice, which is much needed. So, Rawls, in his work, Political Liberalism, gives a response to the communitarian critique. He points that any society can have a comprehensive doctrine. A comprehensive doctrine is values which govern human life and give the meaning to a valuable human life. It can be any religious doctrine like Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, or it can be other comprehensive doctrines which give a conception of life and various other spheres of life, that is liberalism or Marxism. Rawls says, despite possession of these comprehensive doctrines, citizens in any democratic society can develop overlapping consensus, which means they can have an agreement on certain principles which bring the principles of justice as fairness into practice. And he says that he will now not talk about his justice as universal, but confine his idea of justice only to the political conception of justice. What is the meaning that he says about the political conception of justice? Which means, firstly, that this political conception of justice, where there is overlapping consensus, will be a free-standing view, which means it should not be judged in light of any comprehensive doctrine. It is a result of negotiation, rational negotiation that is happening between citizens. They are doing overlapping consensus. And it will only be restricted to a specific activity, which means it will only be application to public political culture, which means democratic institutions of the structure of the state. So he says that yes, citizens can have comprehensive doctrines, still they can come towards the overlapping consensus. Then he talks about the political conception. So he says it is limited to specific activity, it is a freestanding view and should not be judged in light of any comprehensive doctrine. And it emerges from the existing networks of concepts in public political culture. And citizens can have reasonable pluralism, which means even if they belong to diverse context, still they can have some rationality on which they will agree, which is good for the well-being of everybody in the society. And thus he says there will be overlapping consensus, which means agreement on the particular principles of justice. It will be the product of reason and guided by consent. Here he talks about the three principles of justice also, the liberty and equality of opportunity along with difference principle. And he talks about the nature of persons in where this overlapping consensus. So all the people here are what? They are rational people. Conception, which means they understand what is that they value, what is a valuable human life. They are reasonable citizens, which means they know what will be the consequences, okay, what will be the benefits of having cooperation. And they are ready for the burdens of judgment, which means they are ready to bear whatever will be the outcome of having this overlapping consensus. So they are ready to bear whatever will be the outcome of what they have agreed in common. So in this way, he moves from the universal concept that he was there in the theory of justice to a more political conception of justice. And he says that yes, people may be having different visions and versions of good life, but still they can have what? Means they can possess comprehensive doctrine, but still they can have an overlapping consensus. And because they are reasonable citizens, they are ready to bear whatever will be the consequences or burdens of judgment in that regard. So yes, it is a very strong response that Rawls is giving to the communitarian critique. Now, let's move towards Amartya Sen's idea of justice. For Sen, he points that Rawls is moving only to devise the perfect idea of justice. On the other hand, justice always has to be understood in light of injustice. If we understand what is the nature of injustice in society, we will naturally be able to move towards establishing more justice rather than striving for understanding what is the perfect idea of justice. So, Sen points that Rawlsian methodology is first rational choice methodology, which means because of the purely procedural nature that he is talking of establishing the right procedure and processes and outcomes will be just, it is problematic. And the original position and wheel of ignorance that he has designed is very abstract. On the other hand, people always negotiate and agreement is always arrived or consensus is always arrived in social conditions which will be varying from one society to another. Inequalities have different nature in different societies. Across one country like India also there can be different set of inequalities that exist in the northern part, in the southern part. So it will be always agreement of what are the institutions and what are the outcomes always depends on the social conditions. So Sen says that we should be driven by social choice rather than the Rawlsian methodology of rational choice, rational procedures, rational processes, and moving in that light. Sen says that Rawls' focus is towards transcendental institutionalism, which means if institutions are formed in such a way, then they can transcend all the barriers that are there. So if that is the case, then India also has so many institutions. We have state government, so many machineries, human rights commission, so many institutions, but still we see there are cases of injustice and situations of injustice that is happening even today. So this, no institution can overcome all the barriers. Rawls focuses on transcendental institutionalism, which is problematic according to Sen. Sen says that in original position, Rawls is trying to arrive at a consensus, but in real life, to arrive at consensus is so difficult. So he gives the case of three children who are fighting for a flute, and Bob and Carla, and three of them give different grounds on why they should get the flute. One says that I have made it, one says that I don't know any other instrument to play, and the other says that I know how to play it. So three different perspectives: utilitarian, libertarian, socialist, Marxist perspective of these children. There will always be contest. So it is very difficult to arrive at consensus that Rawls is talking about in real life. Okay. Then Sen says that we should move towards more realization focused approach, which means we should resolve the problems in society. As and more we will resolve the contradictions, then we will see that there is more better things that will be established rather than only focusing on procedures, processes and institutions. So he is moving more towards substantive equality and not only formal or procedural equality that is there in the works of Rawls according to Sen. Then Sen says there is two things. One is a niti and other is nyaya. He differentiates between the two. Niti is about procedures and nyaya is about substantive aspect. So Sen says there should not be focus more on niti, but there should be more focus on ensuring nyaya, the substantive aspect, okay, of things. Then, which means we should minimize sufferings according to Sen. He says there should always be quest for injustice, right? Understanding injustice instead of understanding perfect idea of justice that Rawls has moved towards, okay? Then he says that Rawls calls his theory as deontological, but Amartya Sen says we should in fact be guided by teleological approach, not deontological approach like Rawls. Why so? So he brings in the context of Mahabharata and he talks about two different positions. One is the position of Krishna and other is the position of Arjun. Arjun says that he is worried of the consequences of the war. His position is teleological. Krishna says that Arjun should not be worried of the consequences. He has to fight the war because it is a war for dharma. It is a war for the duty that is enshrined upon Arjuna. So, whose position is more practical according to Sen? According to Sen, Arjuna's position is more practical. We can never do things without thinking about consequences. Just for the sake of the means, just for the sake of duty, just for the sake of obligation, without knowing what will be the impact that these kind of policies, laws and decisions will bring on the larger society. Okay, so Sen says we should move towards the teleological approach when we are talking of application of justice, rather than the deontological approach that Rawls is deriving in order to arrive at the right procedures. Then Sen says that there is an inner dichotomy in Rawls in the context of liberty and equality. Obviously, Rawls has emphasized more on liberty, and then in the lexical priority, there is equality and then difference principle. However, Sen says that he is making liberty merely as a tool. He is reducing liberty as a mere facility, right? Rather than liberty as an end in itself. So, liberty is something which nobody will compromise, even if you are getting benefits, even if you are getting rewards, even if you are getting advantages in society. No one will be ready to compromise liberty just because we are getting some doles. Imagine if somebody tells me, I will give you 10 kgs of rice every month, but your liberty to speak against the government will be taken away. So, Amartya Sen says we can't have such kind of ordering. Liberty is also important. Equality also has to be ensured, and one cannot be compromised for the other, which means if you give equality and you snatch away liberty, this will not be tolerated. This is not reconciliation. Both are not in lexical priority. Both always go together in sync. Okay, that's what Sen is arguing. Then he talks about, the importance of toleration in any society, the importance of diversity in every society, the importance of different values in every society. Just like Rawls says that yes, we can have many comprehensive doctrines, and despite that, there will be overlapping consensus. Sen says that even since time immemorial in India, we can see the position of Akbar, we can see the position of Ashok, and all of them have always spoken about plurality in religious faith. So there was coexistence that was there, okay? And not only confining like the political sphere from away from the comprehensive doctrine. There was no separation like that, okay, which Rawls is trying to make. So Sen says even in the time of Ashok and Akbar, there was mutual respect and pluralistic tradition that was there in the religion. So Sen's focus is moving away from institutions, talking about real situations, talking about injustice, inequality, and addressing it there. And to have a consensus in society on arriving at anything in common is very, very difficult. Okay. So yes, we have to focus on things more in the substantive form as and when the institutions, processes, decision making, laws, policies, as and when they will resolve contradictions, they will reduce inequalities, we will certainly be moving towards justice. Okay, so we have to focus on, reducing this suffering in society. Now, next is the libertarian position or the libertarian critique of Rawls' theory. The libertarian critique is in the entitlement theory of justice given by Nozick. Nozick points that Rawls is focusing too much on end state kind of theories, which means he's patterning justice in such a way that state has some type of a role to do some set of a redistribution and ordering society in such a way that there will be redistribution so that inequalities and disadvantages people benefit. But Nozick says we should in fact have what kind? We should have entitlement, which means we should look at historical positions, we should look at historical privileges, and on the basis of that some rectification can be made. But this rectification is something which is voluntary. It is not to be given as a matter of right. However, since even Nozick and Rawls both are liberals, there is one commonality, two commonalities we see between them. Both will always focus on individual, both will always focus on the concept of liberty. However, Rawls moves beyond liberty also, and in his ordering principle, he also brings in equality because he is a social liberal. Okay, and this is something that is criticized heavily by Nozick. He says equality, social justice in the form of equality and difference principle is not the sphere of the society, right? Society and state do not do this in order to advantage the least advantaged sections. It is a matter of one's merit and worth and innate quality that we do this. It should not be done by any external. State has to have minimal role. So, in terms of entitlement theory of justice, okay, so one is the end state theory of justice, which means implies social reconstruction or patterning by state for an desired goal. And entitlement theory of justice talks about principle of rectification, which is historical, and it defends the free market capitalism. In fact, even though Rawls says his theory is not end state theory, or his theory is not about consequences or achieving that kind of final goal, but Nozick will criticize Rawlsian theory also as end state theory. Okay, now then on individual, yes, both will emphasize on the concept of individual, both will emphasize on liberty, both will talk about right is prior to good. What is right here? Liberty. Okay, liberty gives individual, the state will give rights because liberty or freedom has to be realized. However, what does Nozick stretch the argument to? Nozick says right is prior to good it has an inner dichotomy. What is this inner dichotomy? Which means right and good are same. There is no need to make priority. Why? If you are ensuring liberty and freedom, which means you are doing good of the individual, in good of the individual, society's good is there. Why do we have to weigh them as different? Right and good are not different. In right, good is naturally embedded. So he extends the argument to this extent where he doesn't see right and good as separate. So communitarians see right and good as separate, and Rawls prioritizes right over good. But Nozick says right और good में कोई अंतर ही नहीं है. अगर right है, liberty है, freedom है, state ने ये दे दिया तो वो बढ़िया ही है, वो good ही है. It will ensure valuable human life. What is the need to say good is separate from right? Okay. So he talks about that, and with respect to welfare state, obviously Nozick will disagree. What are the principles that he provides for the entitlement theory of justice? So he talks about three principles. The first principle is the initial acquisition. He says these principles of entitlement will conform to any idea of justice if they are driven by these three things. Like initial acquisition is done on first come first serve basis. Fine. Or for acquiring property as well as natural resources. Second, any transfer that happens, okay, it should always be voluntary and it should not be something that is made mandatory. Okay. So he says, yes, Since man has right of ownership, obviously they will always defend private property if he uses his labor or pays wages to others, right? This transfer, which is voluntary, is justified. Third, yes, we can make some rectification in order to conform to the principle of justice. And what is the nature of this rectification? This rectification implies if there is scarcity of some resource in the world, like there is one village and there's only one well, which is the source of water, then everybody has the right to access water from that well because that is the only source available for this necessity. So rectification can be done in such a regard. So this is a very radical justification of procedural or of no justice in the substantive sense. It is only defending free market capitalism and not really leading to any sense of a worthy justice concept. Okay? Now, let's move towards what is the Marxist socialist criticism. When we talk about the Marxist socialist criticism, so the Marxist point that by firstly, the order of the principles of justice is very problematic. Why the order is problematic? Because Rawls has made liberty as the first principle and equality as the second principle. What is the problem with this? According to Marxist and socialist, equality is a fundamental human value. The whole of history is a story of the deepening of concept of equality. How can equality be considered as second in the lexical priority? And even the difference principle that comes with this equality of opportunity is not substantive. Because firstly, rather than equality of opportunity, which is focusing on procedures and process, there should be more equality of outcomes and results that had to be focused on. Apart from that, even if Rawls is giving difference principle, he is justifying inequalities if they are benefiting for the advantages of the least advantage. And by this, he is doing a charity and not giving things or not ensuring benefits and distribution of primary goods as a matter of ownership or as a matter of right. And ownership will again remain only with the few, like it always existed in the capitalist society, which means some will own, and if they voluntarily wish to give, then they will do redistribution, otherwise they will not. So you are questioning the human dignity of the person who is disadvantaged by giving something to them only as a matter of charity. Okay, so for the larger critique rests upon this idea. So Marxists say this is like a peanut, okay, and it is like a favor that the rich are doing on the poor. Difference principle is problematic in that sense. And obviously, by giving such kind of concessions and false promises, what is being averted? Revolution is becoming difficult to arrive. Proletarian consciousness will not arise, right? The poor and the deprived sections of society will feel that they are getting some kind of an award, which there is no need to revolt against. All right. Now, so Kai Nielsen points out that equality is a more fundamental ideal than individual liberty. So in lexical priority, this is disturbed. Then there should be two socialistic principles of any egalitarian conception of justice. The first is that opportunities for a meaningful existence of life, for work, for self-determination should be given, and political participation has to be ensured. Now, let's move towards the feminist criticism of Rawls. So when we talk about the feminist criticism, they criticize Rawls even on methodology, and they criticize Rawls even on the basis of the principles that Rawls keeps or the ethics that he's putting as the base in order to arrive at the principle of justice. Okay. So, what is the feminist critique saying? Feminists say that firstly, the nature of the social contract, okay, which means the original position, which is an assembly of the head of the families, took for granted that women will agree. And he has explicitly not mentioned the consent of women also towards this contract, towards arriving at the rational procedures, or what is the role that women will play in order to arrive at the procedure of justice. So, Carol Patman says Rawls has taken for granted that women will agree to the contract if heads of families sign it. Susan Moller Okin says Rawls has neglected, second argument, Rawls has neglected personal is political, which means Rawls is talking about the application of justice only in the public sphere. Then, even after the communitarian critique, he is saying political conceptions of justice, which means it will apply to political culture, democratic institutions in the public sphere, and nothing about the injustices that are there in the private sphere that women face, which is the key sphere of patriarchy and key domination of women and subordination of women by the men, and that has not been spoken. So, Susan Moller Okin say even personal is political. Why is not Rawls addressing this principle of justice in the personal sphere? He has completely missed out this sphere and neglected it and has not taken the feminist concern into light. Okay. Now, then we have Carol Gilligan. So, what is Rawls' idea? Rawls says for arriving at that the universal principle of justice that he talks is based on ethics of rationality. Rationality, rational people, those who want to do cooperation, they are moral persons, okay, right? And they are the ones who will agree. That is the nature of the basis for arriving at principle of justice. But Rawls has completely missed out that the feminist analysis, moral basis should be guided by care, by love, by reciprocity as the basis of formulating an ethics for arriving at principle of justice. So, feminist way of looking at things is different. They say that there should be a female specific way of moral reasoning, which is distinct from the universal ethics of justice that is derived by Rawls. So, idea of justice is what? It is masculinist idea and it is based on individualism. On the other hand, the ethics of care, care is something which is already not valued in society, okay? It focuses on human connectedness, how humans are linked with one another, and not on individualism, which is only guided by rationality and who are mutually disinterested. It talks about emotions and sacrifice of self and leads to peace and stability in the society. Okay. Now, Martha Nussbaum also in this context talks about the capabilities approach as the basis of justice. Nell Nodding says that male ethics is neutral, rational, universal, and female ethics is guided by specificity, love, and subjectivity, making a distinction between the ethics of Abraham and ethics of Ceres. So the man is ready to sacrifice the son for the sake of principle if the son does wrong. But Ceres, being a woman guided by more sacrifice, will never want the suffering of the son and can even compromise with the principle. So this is the feminist critique about Rawlsian principle of justice. Now, then global application of the principles of justice. Now, a key question comes in the light of globalization era, that there is rise of a civilized civil society. There are a lot of inequalities that are occurring because of globalization, systems, institutions, formation of WTO. So, can we apply the difference principle and establish even global justice? Which means when we talk about difference principle, it will be between what? It will be between societies, justice between societies. So, can we have a cosmopolitan basis of justice? Which means, what is cosmopolitanism? Cosmopolitanism, which means we value human being. We value that you are a human irrespective of your nationality, irrespective of your citizenship, or from which religion you belong to. No, you are valued because you are a human being. You have intrinsic human dignity, and for that you will be respected. Doesn't matter whether you are an Indian, American, Pakistani, or a German. Okay. So cosmopolitan ethics focus on the moral sense of human beings. Now, can we have something like this difference principle which focuses on the cosmopolitan? So these are questions that have been raised by scholars of global justice, and they criticize Rawls that Rawlsian principle is inadequate to be applied at global level. Rawls himself says some things. Rawls says, when we talk about laws of the peoples, in his book only, what will be the laws of the peoples? The laws of the peoples will be based on a foreign policy amongst what? Nation states. It will be international. It will not be based on cosmopolitanism. When we make something international, which means it is existing between nation states, not as individuals, but more as citizens, that it has to be focused on. So he also distinguishes between the peoples. So he says, who are the peoples? Obviously, citizens are the peoples, not the individuals. And how are these peoples? So he differentiates between peoples. He says there are liberal peoples and there are decent peoples. Liberal peoples belong to a democratic way of life. They have governmental institution, they have constitutional philosophy, and they have the entire structure around which things will work. On the other hand, decent peoples can have not these democratic institutions, but their way of life can also be based on any comprehensive doctrine, like religion. So Islam, for example, is an official religion of many states. So their society is constructed not on secular values, but they are based on religious way of life. So can we apply difference principle between these societies? Rawls says no. It cannot. Difference principle is only what? Amongst internal to the society. It will not be between societies. However, there can be some ways on how the liberal peoples deal with the decent peoples. There can be some basis of having some code of conduct on the basis of which, their conduct will be guided. So Rawls says, what will be these principles? So he says that the way liberal peoples will deal with the decent peoples will be guided by respect of freedom, observe treaty obligations, non-intervention in the domestic affairs, war only in self-defense, treat them as equal, honor their human rights, respect code of conduct in war, and duty of assistance in exceptional situations like natural disaster. This can be done, but we cannot apply difference principle between societies. It will be internal to societies only. Okay. So Rawls, global scholars, scholars of global justice say Rawls' difference principle is inadequate to apply at the global level. In this regard, Thomas Pogge proposes a global egalitarian principle of distributive justice, and that is the global resources tax. What is this global resource tax? It will be applied on companies who are exploring the earth's resources like oil, okay, like marine resources. And these companies will pay taxes to the governments, and these governments will give to the disadvantaged people in other societies part of this taxation as a global resources tax. So in this way, difference principle can be applied according to Pogge. But according to Rawls, it is not applicable. Okay. Now let's move also towards what is Ambedkar's view on justice. See, Ambedkar, just like Rawls, is a social liberal. Okay. And he focused on individual. Obviously, for him, individual is a what? End in itself and not a means. He focused on liberty as a value. Yes, he is also a liberal. So he also focuses on importance of what? Liberty as a value. But what is social justice for Ambedkar? So Ambedkar says we should not focus only on the rational way of arriving at justice, like Rawls is saying, because society has a lot of inequalities and basis of discrimination. Until society is reformed, individuals, there is hierarchy in society, one individual cannot negotiate terms of cooperation with others on equal terms. So first we have to establish or change or end this caste system, like example in Indian context. And we cannot believe that all these social institutions and justice will come from the sphere of society, because society is a sphere of what? Discrimination. Society is a sphere of injustice, and society does a lot of what? Discrimination against individuals. So for Ambedkar, social justice is equated with three ideas: liberty, equality, fraternity together. And how to ensure this? Can we leave it on some institutions, social institutions in that sense, where rational negotiators will come, like Rawls say? No. Ambedkar says it has to be imbibed in the constitutional philosophy. Only then the outcome will be just. We can't only focus on procedures that way. How do we ensure that outcome will be just is in the sense of how he has imbibed the liberty, equality, fraternity in the trinity of the constitution, in the preamble, in the fundamental rights, in the DPSP. So for Ambedkar, society is a matter of a lot of discrimination. It is oppressive in character. It is tyrannical in character, because Indian society was such against the lower caste. So he doesn't believe in society, and he doesn't believe individuals deal with each other in same sense of cooperation, like Rawls individual deal with each other when they have to arrive at the principle of justice. Okay. So Ambedkar's sense is more egalitarian in this way. Fine. Now, so we know that Rawls has really made a huge contribution in this regard, and Rawls is termed as a key redistributionist by Samuel Gorovitz, okay, and he takes the proper function of government include not merely the maintenance of a social order, the achievement of distributive justice by placing highest value on the needs of the neediest. So he combines different value systems also and enriches the idea of justice in liberalism, unlike the what? Unlike the classical liberals or the utilitarians. And Rawls has made justice a pluralistic concept, okay, which means the debate around Rawlsian justice has pushed scholars and activists to recognize complexity and diversity of justice and helped make the justice more pluralistic and inclusive, okay. And he's also revived normative political philosophy. So there are a lot of contributions that Rawls has made to this sphere of justice, okay. I hope you have very comprehensively understood what are the various ideas of justice, the criticism towards Rawls, and comparison also between the Greek and Rawlsian dimension. All the best. Thank you so much.